Well, aren't you a regular Nancy Drew?
I learned that from the Nancy Drew detective.
Okay, go.
You think you can follow the clues and solve the case of the missing condiment, Nancy Drew?
Because I've read every Nancy Drew mystery ever written.
Nancy, please tell me you're joking.
Wow, you suck at this Nancy Drew stuff. You should get a new hobby.
My name is Carson Drew, and this is my assistant, Nancy.
Nancy Drew.
It's curtains for you, Miss Drew.
Nancy Drew strikes again.
A regular Nancy Drew.
Well, hello, regular Drews.
Hello, and welcome to episode 95.
Oh my goodness, we have a big one in store for you today. This is the episode all about the convention, the 2024 Nancy Drew Sleepy Hollow convention that we have just attended.
Yes, we had such a wonderful time.
We did. It was so amazing, so fun, fabulous. Thank you so much to Jen Fisher for organizing it. As usual, it's just immaculately planned.
Yes, you outdid yourself even from last year. It was so much fun.
Yeah. So we do need to give a little bit of a preface here and say that we tried so hard to record during the convention, and we did record during the convention. We were going to post kind of an episode where we went day by day talking about the things that we did, but we had some audio issues with those recordings and lost about half of it.
Yep.
So we're going to have to go over quite a bit here. We are now back at home post-convention, so we're both recording this from our respective homes. But yeah, so it also there's some in the recordings that we do still have, there's some maybe some choppiness and weirdness in there too. So hopefully that's not too jarring to listen to. We're going to do our best to smooth it over, but if there's anything weird sounding, that is why.
Yes, so unfortunately, I believe the hotel internet quality was maybe not the most reliable. So we of the audio that you're going to hear that we did actually record during the convention, it may not be the best quality. So I really apologize for the sound issues that we had.
But that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. We move forward. But yeah, so let's talk about the convention, Kori.
Yes. So as we said, of course, this is planned by Jennifer Fisher, the president and founder of the Nancy Drew Sleuths fan club. So this is something that she does every single year. In fact, sometimes twice a year that she plans. And it's always, well, at least for the ones that we did this year and last year, it's always like a 5-day thing, right?
Yeah, for I think the fall ones that she does. The years where she does 2, the spring one I think is typically a little bit shorter.
Oh, okay. But she always picks a specific book or game or mystery that is set in the location or near the location where the convention is held. So this year, of course, the theme books were The Haunted Bridge, The Curse of the Black Cat, which is a digest, and then also Warnings at Waverly Academy, which is the game based on that book. A couple others, I think Flying Saucer Mystery. What were the other books that she picked out?
There's The Witch's Omen, but that's Dana Girl's book.
I think a Trixie Belden as well, we said.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look. Hold on.
But the main ones, of course, Haunted Bridge and Waverly Academy were like the big theme books of the weekend.
Haunting of Horse Island. And then the Trixie Belden is the mystery, The Headless Horseman, of course. And there's also a Penny Parker book called Hoofbeats on the Turnpike, which I believe is a take on the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is, of course, also featured heavily in the convention this year, even though it's not a, Stratemeyer Syndicate book. Of course, we were in Sleepy Hollow, so of course we talked about that. So...
And then the first day was, of course, it was mostly a travel day for us. But at the end of the day, there was a meet and greet party planned, which was Black Cat themed. So it was very, very fun because we all got to dress up in masquerade outfits.
Yes.
And then Jen had a mystery planned for us that we kind of got to solve throughout the night.
I wore cat ears. I drank a margarita. Everything was lovely. But yeah, no, there was this little booklet in our goodie bags. Oh, we should also talk about the goodie bags, but the booklet in the goodie bags, where you had to go around to all of these different tables and solve these little like puzzles with the help of people around you. So you kind of like, meet and greet at the meet and greet.
Right.
And then once you have filled out the booklet, then you can like present it to someone. And they gave us a little prize. It's a little black cat black cat charm.
Yes, it was so cute.
Particularly near and dear to my heart because, of course, I have 2 black cats at home.
Right.
So I love anything and everything black cat themed. But yeah, no, in our goodie bags, we had so much cool stuff. Of course, there was a copy of The Haunted Bridge, and Jen typically gives out a new copy of the book that the convention is centered around each year. There were also some stickers from Her Interactive in there.
And a
We
game
also
code
got
from
and
Her
a game
Interactive.
code. Yeah, for Mystery of the Seven Keys, which was really cool. There was like so many cool little goodies in there. There was like a magnifying glass, I think.
There was also a little bracelet from Jen and a little like plastic spider
Oh, right.
ring and just like little
Yes.
cute Halloween decorations and
things.
stuff like that. And then the goodie
Yeah.
bag itself, she had custom made.
Yeah.
So it's the artwork from The Haunted Bridge, the third nappy version, but instead of the ghost, she's replaced it with the Headless Horseman, and it says Nancy Drew and the Haunted Bridge of the Headless Horseman. So very on theme, obviously.
So cool.
Very cute. So that was a lot of fun.
It was. And we got to meet a ton of y'all, some people that we had met at the convention last year, which was so fun, but also some new faces that we had not yet met. So thank you guys so much for coming up and introducing yourselves. So lovely to get to see you in person, to meet you in person. It can it's such a weird experience having a podcast and having people like listen to you, and like in my mind, like of course I know that people listen to this, but like it's just such a different thing to like meet you in person and like, oh yeah, this is not just some weird thing that I do in my like office at home in my PJs. It's like actually like reaching people out there in the world. It's very weird. It's a very weird experience, but it was so lovely to meet you guys. You guys are lovely, and thank you so much for coming up and saying hi.
Yeah, it was so much fun to meet everybody. Yeah. Oh, and Jim McNamara displayed some of his art as well.
Yes.
He had some at the convention, the big convention day at the end of the week, but also some different art pieces that he displayed at the meet and greet party, which was really cool. And we got to take our pictures with some original nappy paintings, which is just so much fun.
The original tolling bell.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
Print or not print, like painting. It was just beautiful. So cool.
Yeah, it was just so good to like reunite with all of our friends that we met last year and get to meet new people this year. So yeah, it was just so much fun.
Yeah. And then the next day, so we did successfully manage to record the next day's activities that day. So the next day, which we actually got to go into New York City, that is something that we managed to record while we were there. So we're just going to pop that little bit in right here. Oh my God. Okay, so we're back, regular Drews. Technically, this is day 3 for that convention. We missed recording yesterday because we were so exhausted.
We wore ourselves out big time, but New York City will do that to you.
Right, because we went to New York.
It was so exciting.
Yeah, the Big Apple, NYC.
My first time ever going there.
Yes.
Your second time.
My second time,
So.
yeah. I was telling you this on the train down there, I think. I don't think I could ever live in New York City.
Oh, gosh, no.
But I 100% get it because it definitely has like an energy to it. It's very exciting. There's like a thrilling nature to New York City that would exhaust me if I lived there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's very, very fun to visit. Yeah, we saw so many cool things, but our primary reason for visiting was, do you want to tell them, Kori?
Just like insanely cool. So we got the chance to go visit the Stratemeyer Syndicate archives, which are housed at the New York Public Library. And I can't even describe like the reverence that you feel when you walk into this building and get to see all these archives. First of all, the
beautiful,
crazy, massive, absolutely gorgeous,
like marble everywhere,
top to bottom, just the most intricately carved everything.
Yeah, gorgeous. If you have never visited the New York Public Library and you're in town, you have to go.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
we didn't even like go in and see the rest
I know.
of it, and like
we didn't have time.
I'm sure that you could spend a week in there and not see everything.
Yeah.
And even the ceilings were like hand painted, like beautiful, like
Gorgeous.
baby cherubs on the ceiling.
Yes.
I can't even describe it.
Yeah.
So that's the setting, and then we get to go in and see all the like most important things imaginable for Stratemeyer and for Nancy Drew. It was so cool.
We got to walk through the very famous Rose reading room to get to the Brooke Russell Astor room, which is where we did the bulk of our reading. We spent 5 hours in there? No, like 6. Just looking
at an appointment for 5 hours, and they let us stay for an additional hour because we just could not get through everything. There's so much material. They have like 500 boxes of Stratemeyer stuff. Yeah. And so we requested just a very small list of Nancy Drew related things, like 10 boxes, and we maybe got through half of those. Yeah. And that was us trying to like speed through it. Right. Yeah. So definitely, hopefully we'll get to go back in the future.
We're going to need like a full 6 months, I think, just to even scratch the surface on like what is actually there. But it is just so cool. We got to see photographs, so many photographs. I got to see like handwritten letters from Harriet Stratemeyer Adams,
and
Mildred Ward Benson. Yeah, just like the coolest things. I mean, like not even just like considering like the history of like literally from like the 1930s, like original documents from the 1930s all the way up to the 80s. It's just wild. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even describe it. So like, and it's very like, not secure, but it's all like very pristine and like very serious about it, which obviously should be. Right. But we've had our appointment time. We had to go in and like check our stuff because it's very limited of what you can even bring in. Like they don't even let you bring a pen. Yeah. You can bring your phone and a pencil, and that's it. Like, they made us wear gloves for everything. Like obviously you should do those things, but it's just again the reverence around it.
The importance.
So important. Yes, which of course it is very important, which is why we were there. Yeah. But then when they brought us all our boxes and everything, we got to rifle through as much as we could, as fast as we could, and get some microfiche, and that was fun trying to figure out the microfiche machine and everything.
I have about 80,000 pictures on my phone now. Because they do let you photograph the work just in flash, so we got to do that a lot, which was really great. Yeah, I don't know. I think looking through it all, and I told you this already too, Kori, but I think the thing that I was most struck by was just like the relationship between Harriet Stratemeyer Adams and Mildred Ward Benson, because I think, especially, of course, Harriet was working at a time. It was a major leader in like business at the time when there were not many female business leaders.
She was one of the very first female CEOs in the entire industry, which is crazy.
And so to like see how these two very professional, very talented women interacted, it was incredibly moving. Like I felt really like emotionally affected by it, because when they communicated, reading the letters between them, like they would ask about each other's children, they would talk about the holidays, about life events, marriages, moving,
vacations,
personal things, right? Which of course is a kind and professional way to interact. It wasn't like, I wouldn't say they seemed like close, they weren't like BFFs or anything, but there was something about it that felt so warm, and this might sound weird to say, but like feminine, like there was a femininity to the way that they spoke to each other that I feel like you just wouldn't get that kind of interaction between two men in business maybe, or a woman and a man in business. It was very much like a professional female relationship, and it was so cool to be able to witness that happening in the 1930s and the 1940s. Like it was just so cool, and it made me feel so, I don't know, just like we've talked about this before on the podcast, but really the legacy that the road that these women have like paved for us is so inspiring. So
it's so easy to put them up on a pedestal and like, think of them as our heroes. Because of course they are. And they deserve to be kind of lifted up in that way. But to read these more personal things, it's very humanizing. Yes. But to see just like how well they were able to be trailblazers like that. It's like, I get why, why they were so successul and how they were able to do the things that they did. Because it's just like, you see it all right in front of you and how it was all laid out as it was happening. So.
Yeah. And like reading, like getting to read it like chronologically to a certain extent too is like hearing about Mildred Ward Benson's life, like via these letters to Harriet, about her moving and about the birth of her daughter and about, you know, her husband's many strokes and his eventual passing, like just being struck by like, wow, it's just so momentous. And like, I don't, the sense of history of it all, and also the sense of the length of time. These women worked together for decades. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's so cool. Anyway, so yeah, if you ever have a chance to go visit the the New York Public Library and check out these archives, it is so worth it. Even if you can't stay for 6 hours like we did, even if you're able to just look at a small bit of it, I definitely recommend it. It was so cool.
I'm trying to think of some of like highlights of things that we saw. Obviously, like some of it's our stuff that we already knew, and it's just like, you know, evidence of that or whatever. But some things, like I got to hold Harriet's will in my hand, which is crazy. I never would have imagined that would be a thing that would come true, you know.
The picture of Magdalena.
Yes, Harriet's mother, which is really cool because I've never seen a picture of her before. She was very glamorous and beautiful. So that was really neat. And yeah, there was a ton of photos in there that I'd never seen before of even like Harriet. And one really touching one is her at her desk where she's like hugging a photo of her father. And of course she was older, so it had been a long time since he passed, but just the way that she continued to honor him throughout her life was really cool as well. And knowing that was the case, it's really awesome.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We got to see some information about the Nancy Drew musical.
Yes.
From the 80s, right? Is that when they were trying to get something started? Obviously, nothing ever came of it until more recently that they got the Broadway news.
Yeah. Just interesting that, like, they've been trying to do that for so long.
Right. I had no idea that they started the attempts that early.
Yeah. We saw, like, handwritten sheet music for it.
We got to see Marvel tried to get their hands on Nancy Drew back in the 40s. It obviously didn't work out, but it's just very interesting to kind of think about what that might have looked like. And what that might have been.
Nancy Drew in the Marvel universe.
Right.
Imagine.
Can you imagine? Gosh, what other things? We saw like the Madame Alexander contract for when the dolls first got started. Just a lot of correspondence, like you said.
I think the correspondence is what was most interesting for me, but there was definitely a lot of legal paperwork in there that I'm like, I have no idea what this means, but I'm sure it's very important.
There was also some like really heart-wrenching correspondence from fans in the archives as well. We actually saw one guy that had written multiple letters to Harriet asking to like pass his note along to his favorite ghostwriter, Victor Appleton, who was of course actually Edward Stratemeyer. And it was just like kind of heart-wrenching knowing that he'd already been dead for 10 years at this point, and this guy was like, please, I just want like him to know how much I admire him and love him. Like, please just tell me you'll pass my note along to him. And it's just multiple letters from the same person like that. And there was several cases like that, not just to focus on this one guy, but it was just very touching. Like how much it's affected people for decades and decades now, 100 years pretty much now.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what else did we do?
So after that, we just kind of got the chance to
do a little sightseeing,
wander NYC a little bit. Got
to
see the Rockefeller Center.
FAO Schwartz.
Yes, FAO Schwartz. We got to wander around
through the Barbie section.
Yes.
Oh my God.
A whole little Barbie store on the second or third floor, I think.
We didn't have time to see too much because, again, we spent 6 hours at the library and we didn't want to be in the city too late.
Yeah, it was already like getting dark.
And we were already exhausted and
some dinner. And then we got back on the train to come back.
But it was so cool and so fun. And then today, which is Friday, today is Friday, we got the chance to tour Lyndhurst, the Lyndhurst Mansion, which was so cool.
Breathtaking.
Yeah, beautiful. So much Tiffany glass.
Yes. Well, I'd never even heard of this family before. Or, sorry, the Lyndhursts were not a family.
Right.
There were multiple families that lived in this place, but I had never heard of the place before. But apparently the people that lived there were friends with like every famous rich family in the country, including the Tiffany's, and had all like cool stuff and like Louis Vuitton suitcases and all that kind of crazy old stuff from like the 1800s.
And the grounds too are just beautiful. Even if you have a chance to go, and if you don't want to do the tour, you can still get onto the grounds and take a look around because it's just so cool. It's gorgeous. And then afterwards we got to go see Washington Irving's home.
Yes.
Not as grand as Lyndhurst.
Not even slightly, but still gorgeous.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, like the ground's more idyllic because it's like a little bit more like country wooded, but like a beautiful like pond and like all of the trees and the plants, just beautiful.
And spooky vibes for sure.
Yes.
They're at like dusk with the perfect little spook.
It definitely makes you realize like, oh, okay, I can see how he was inspired to write The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. So,
oh my gosh.
It's been really cool so far. And then tonight we're going to get the opportunity to go on a cemetery tour.
Yes.
And so, yeah, hopefully we will get a chance to talk to you guys about that as well. I'm very excited for it. It looks like it's going to be really cool because it's going to be like getting dark at the time when we get to go. So very spooky. Yes.
And they have the bridge, like in the cemetery, a recreation of the Sleepy Hollow Bridge, or the Headless Horseman Bridge, sorry, in the cemetery. So we'll get to see that as well, which is really cool. And then the Headless Horseman statue is right next to that.
And I don't know if it's just like if I'm just a weirdo or what, but like I love cemeteries.
They're so cool.
They're so cool. It's not even about like the, the morbid, like death stuff that interests me. It's just so old, like historic graves. I love that. Just so interesting the history that's there. And also just a lot of graveyards and cemeteries are so beautiful. And of course they're supposed to be that way because it's supposed to be a resting place, you know, but they're just, I love touring. I love touring them. It's so fun. Hello, regular Drews. We are back and we are exhausted.
We have had the best day, though. It's been the most exciting thing. It's so fun.
So fun. We are now officially post cemetery tour, post convention day, post mystery dinner. So we have just had such an amazing time, but so full of activity that I am like beat, like totally beat.
We've been busy, but it's been amazing.
It has been so amazing. Okay.
Let's start with the cemetery tour because that's where we left off. We were about to go to that yesterday. So we got there right at dark. So of course the whole thing was like
so spooky, like
complete darkness
in a cemetery after dark. Legitimately, luckily there were a lot of people there, so it wasn't like I was that spooked out. I did not think something was gonna jump out and scare me or anything, but the vibes were there. You know.
Very peaceful, but still very spooky, which is wonderful.
And our tour guide was amazing on that tour. She was like so animated. She told great stories, but she was literally like acting things out. She was like on the ground at one point. I was like, oh my God. Like she was committed. It was amazing. She did. She sang us a song. Like so good. And they gave us these lanterns to carry around.
That was a unique experience.
I know. I have never had anything like that on a tour before, but it's really set the mood. It was so great.
Which that cemetery is massive. If you guys have not heard of the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery before, go look it up on Google Maps. You will see how absolutely big it is. I think they said like 90 acres or something like that, or maybe more than that.
Yeah.
But a lot of space, and there's so many famous people buried there. We saw the Rockefeller graves, the Chrysler graves, Carnegie's grave, of course Washington Irving's grave. Obviously, that's one of the big attractions there. And heard kind of all the like stories that go along with like his life and everything. So cool.
It was so super cool. And then after that, we were tired because it was late. And this morning we had our wonderful convention day. We had quite a few speakers this year. I feel like we had more than last year.
Yes, we had, well, including Jen Fisher, who's the host of the convention. We had 7 speakers this time. So yeah.
So our first speaker was Jen, right?
Was Jen, yes.
So she kicked it off, and her talk was really great, as per usual. She gave us a really great story. What did she talk about? Now I'm like blanking.
So she talked a little bit about like the behind the scenes making of the Haunted Bridge, or the like production leading up to the Haunted Bridge and everything, which was really interesting to see. Of course, we actually saw some of those exact same letters that she showed at the New York Public Library yesterday, 2 days ago. 2 days ago now.
Such a funny coincidence.
So we got to hear kind of her perspective, and of course she knew way more information about it than just what we saw from reading those letters at the library. So you got to kind of see the whole story of what went into it, and talked a little bit more about Mildred's love of golf, and showed us some pictures of her like golfing and everything.
Talked about like the things that she had written in articles about golf, which is really funny and sweet, about her beloved golf clubs and how she always wished that she would be as good as she was when she was young. So very funny, very cool.
She in the letter she described golf as her pet weakness. So now we know that, like, yeah, that's the reason it's so prevalent in Haunted Bridge is because Millie really, really loved it. So makes sense. After that was Doc Wyatt, the co-owner of Wandering Planet Toys, which is the company that produced the Nancy Drew action figures. I think like last year was the Kickstarter, and they've like recently been produced, and he was giving us kind of an overview of like what the process was like, like even getting the idea in the first place, but then also like how they made everything, and showed us all these like equipment pictures and everything. It looks really, really involved of a process, but it was really interesting.
Yeah, and he's also just like such a cool guy. Like his presentation was so animated and so fun. It was just such a joy to watch, and like the jokes that he would make. It was such a highlight of all those speakers. And I've really loved to have the chance to get to meet him. He's such a nice guy. Yeah, and he dropped some pretty big news.
I know. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that next year, actually, they are going to be doing another Kickstarter. But this time, they are going to be producing Nancy Drew lunchboxes.
Yes.
Which is so exciting. I am so excited. I have wanted a Nancy Drew lunchbox since I used lunchboxes, probably. So I will definitely be joining the Kickstarter to do that. And looking very much forward to more news about that.
Absolutely.
Next year. Yeah.
He did also tease some other things about the action figures themselves. Because, of course, for the Kickstarter that they did for that, it was a limited run. I don't remember exactly how many. I think like 8 action figures that they did. Maybe 6 plus like a few of the accessories like the robot that they did. I don't remember the exact number. But he's planning on doing more as soon as they kind of get the interest for it built up enough. I think that they're trying to get into retail stores. So it'll probably be after that time that we see new outfits or new book covers for Nancy. But they're also
that's what you're
also Bess and George might be coming in the future, and then they do also have the rights for the Hardy Boys that they haven't like started working on that yet, but that is in the works for the future, which is like so exciting. So cool.
Yes.
So now I have to collect them all. No, I'm kidding, but yeah, and then Ruth Sanderson got to come speak again this year.
She's always such a joy.
Yes, it was so interesting to get to hear her perspective. I mean, obviously we got to hear her speak last year at the convention, but just a little bit different of a talk this time about specifically which covers she was talking about. So that was really interesting.
Loved seeing all of her art and her pictures always. And of course she had a table too at the convention where she, had all of her art posted up, and it's always just so cool to see. And then after that, I think was the break. And then, and then we came back and Trisha spoke. That's right. Trisha Zimick, who is another cover artist for Nancy Drew. And she illustrated a good amount of the files between 92 and 94.
Yeah. Like 20 plus files. She had quite a lot to her name.
Yeah. And she talked about working with Simon and Schuster and actually like how challenging it was and like how limited she was in her ability of, what she was able to put on the cover of a Nancy Drew novel, which I thought was super interesting to hear about. I mean, because like we always, kind of heard about, and I don't know, we've maybe talked about it a little bit in this podcast, but about Harriet Stradmeyer Adams' kind of like tight grip on like the image of what Nancy is. But it seems like that must have really carried over into Simon and Schuster as well, which I guess makes sense. She's such a strong, central, important, popular character that, to be able to portray her in a very particular way in order to, maintain the brand, I suppose, is important, but obviously presents a really big challenge to, illustrators and, using their creativity, right? But it was so cool to hear from her, and she's so lovely as well. She signed some books for us. We're so grateful for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it gave us a lot of insight into like all the feedback that she would get from Simon and Schuster of like, no, you can't do that. And it needs like Nancy's expression needs to look more like this, and just like very, very detailed, like things that you probably wouldn't even notice on the book cover unless it was pointed out. But they were like so specific about it that she got a lot of feedback from them. And it sounded like there was a lot of like trials, and it was like a lot of back and forth that way.
And about how she got fired for accidentally, I mean, I don't know, calling Nancy Schleppy in an interview.
And that context doesn't sound so great, but she was being interviewed back in the 90s about how she was hired specifically to update Nancy's look, and said, I'm bringing her from, old and outdated and
schleppy, right?
to modern day 90s fashion style and hairstyle, all that kind of stuff. And they immediately fired her because she used the word schleppy.
Oh my god.
And they didn't want her, even though that's why they hired her.
Yes.
So that's really a shame because she did some really great work for them.
I know. Her covers are so cool and so beautiful. I love all the bright colors and the poppy, like, 90s-ness of, the files. So they were really cool.
I mean, obviously we love it because our color scheme is, like, all super bright colors inspired by that, obviously. Yeah. So. And then after that, we actually had an author come talk to us who is really into the Nancy Drew community. Obviously, she's a super fan of Nancy Drew. And because of that, that got her into writing. Yeah. And she started writing mystery novels kind of inspired by Nancy Drew, or at least her characters are inspired by Nancy Drew.
Yeah, and that's Nancy Lazon.
She's got quite a few books out already and is currently publishing more. So if you're able to go check her out, she seems like she's got some really good plot lines and everything because she kind of gave us a little synopsis of all of them.
She talked about how she was inspired both by Nancy Drew and also Harlequin romances. Yes. But her books are not spicy books. They are adult, but they are
they pure mystery.
I think there's a little bit of romance, but it's not like sexy.
Right.
Sexy books. Yes.
And then after that was, of course, the Her Interactive Talk, which was done by Indy, who hopefully you guys are already familiar with her, but she talked a little bit about just kind of the educational aspects of the game. So very different from her talk last year, where she was kind of showing trailers for the current games and everything, but it was mostly how you could use that to, like, apply it to learning.
Right. Or, like, specifically geared towards teachers and how teachers can use it in curriculum. On their table, though, their merch table in the convention room, they had mini Cocoa Kringle bars.
I snagged a couple. I had to.
Yes, I thought it was so cute and such a sweet touch. Like, on the front, they put a little sticker that said, the Cocoa Kringle. And then on the back, they said, like, made in Wickford Castle. So cool. Such a creative thing. And, of course, they brought us bookmarks this year, which was so sweet.
Oh my gosh, they make custom bookmarks for us.
Yes, it's so funny. Based off our logo. It was the coolest thing ever. I was so touched. Can't believe that they did that. They went through all that effort to do that. It was so sweet. And I think we posted that on our Instagram, on our stories. So if you happen to catch us posting it, that's what that was.
Yes.
But yeah, so cool and so appreciative to them.
Yeah, so Indy and Brigella, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. I was blown away by how thoughtful and personalized, that was for us. It was just so sweet and wonderful.
And then last up was James, right?
Yes, James Keyline, who is, of course, an absolute expert on the Stratemeyer family, specifically Edward Stratemeyer and the Syndicate and everything. But such an amazing researcher.
Yeah, we've got to talk more to him.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I am on his website like every 5 seconds. I learn so much from him. So if you've never been to his website, it's stratemeyer.org. Go read up on his stuff. He's really knowledgeable about Edward and like everything pre-Nancy Drew, which is really, really hard to find any information on.
Yes.
And in fact, if you do find information, it's probably because James is the one who found it and put it on the internet.
And he gave a talk specifically about this boat crash that happened in 1909.
I believe so.
I want to say that actually Edward Stratemeyer and Harriet Stratemeyer, who was at the time Harriet Stratemeyer, were involved in, and it was a little bit of a narrow escape for them. And he had a letter that Edward Stratemeyer had written about it, and so that was really cool because that boat crash actually happened on the Hudson, which of course we are right next to right now. So it was very topical, very appropriate, very interesting, very cool.
Definitely.
Yeah,
so after that, of course, that was the end of like the convention morning, but then in the evening we had the big convention dinner, which Jen did an amazing job planning. No surprise, because last year's just was absolutely flawless, so I knew that this one was going to be just as good.
Yes, yeah. I mean, dinner was lovely, and I do have to say that their desserts were particularly good this year.
Oh, good, yes.
There was this little cream puff thing. Oh my god! And they had cannolis. I didn't eat a cannoli, but I really wanted to. But then, we got that we had a mystery at the dinner, right? That we had to solve, and it was so cute and so fun at the beginning, because it's based off of Haunted Bridge, of course. We had to help Nancy with her golf score, so we had to lower Nancy's golf score by playing some like little mini games, essentially as a table. And then once we finished those, we got our packet, which is like the big mystery for the evening, which was a kind of like a version of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow meets Haunted Bridge, which was really funny. And even some of the sleuths at the convention got up at the beginning to enact a little play for us, which was so funny and so sweet and darling. And then we got to look through our packet and solve the mystery, and kind of, work out everybody's alibis and the clues, which were like actual physical clues that we got to go look at up at the front of the room. It was just so clever and so cool. And a message to decode. And then
the bridge.
And the bridge. Oh my gosh, we didn't talk about the bridge.
Yeah, Jen got an actual bridge to bring into the room. And so, of course, the crime scene was the bridge. So the clues were scattered all over the bridge, and you got to climb all over it and look at everything. It was really cool.
And she said that someone drove that bridge up from Georgia.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Built it themselves and drove it here.
It's amazing.
The dedication of Nancy Drew fans will never not amaze me.
And I'm so proud of us because our table won this year.
Yes!
We were the first ones to solve the mystery. That was so amazing. I honestly am a very competitive person, regular Drews. I am not going to lie. Kori, you're shocked. Well, like you haven't known me my whole life. But, so of course I went in really wanting to win.
Of course.
But without any real expectation of it happening because, of course, everybody here is a Nancy Drew. And I'm like, oh God, like the competition is fierce.
Like we don't stand a chance.
Yes.
But we were able to pull it off.
We
did.
Really
cool.
Yes. And so thanks so much to all of our table mates who helped with that. We got to sit with Doc. We got to sit with Indy and Brigella and some other convention attendees. And we all pitched together. It was really fun.
Yes.
Just such a great time. And we got some lovely prizes for winning. We got a copy of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, like a children's book version of it, and then a little Nancy Drew like golf tote bag with some golf socks in it. But it was just such a good time. I'm so sad it's over.
Sadly, that's the end of it.
Yes.
We go home tomorrow. So
yeah. Oh, tear.
But she's already, Jen, the organizer of these events, she's already announced the ones for next year. There's going to be one in Toledo in April, and then the fall one in October will be in Pennsylvania next
Lancaster,
year.
yes.
The witch tree symbol themed, which sounds really fun. So if you guys are interested, we recommend it nonstop.
Wholeheartedly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And I think we've actually had a couple people come up to us at this convention and tell us that they listened to our episode last year on the convention and it convinced them to come. So if you're at all worried about meeting people, please know all the people here are so, so lovely and sweet. And all you have to do is go up to someone and say hi, and they will talk your ear off about Nancy Drew. It is really just such a great group of people, and I'm so, so grateful that they have welcomed us with open arms, and it's so nice to get to know them and to meet them all. And to meet you guys who have been here and come up and said hi to us, said that you recognize our voices, which is such a weird thing to hear, but I guess so lovely too. And yeah, I don't know. I'm never not just completely blown away by the love and the generosity that I think exists in the Nancy Drew community. And it's just so lovely to be a part of it with all of you guys.
Yeah, so if you are debating about maybe thinking about coming in the future, or you're like nervous about coming alone, or you don't know anybody, you will make friends easily.
Yes.
I promise. Like, don't let that stop you, because it is definitely worth it. It's a fun, just like vacation to go travel, first of all, but then to be there for Nancy Drew, which is so exciting.
Yeah. But yeah, that was this year's convention, Sleepy Hollow 2024 Nancy Drew convention. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to go next year. We're not entirely sure yet. We'll have to work out our schedules and everything, but we will keep you posted as usual, regular Drews. And as always, thanks for listening.
Yes, and special thanks, of course, to Jen Fisher for organizing all of this. She did a flawless job of putting it all together. I know you probably spent like 3 years working on this, because that's how long it would have taken me to plan everything that we did this week, because there was so much going on the whole time. Which, thank you so much, Jen.
Yes, thank you so much. We had so much fun. It was a blast. So next up, regular Drews, we are going to be shifting gears as per usual, and we will be transitioning over into covering more of the Nancy Drew files. Yay! I'm so excited to get back to the files. I love the files. Files are my favorite series, I think.
Especially after seeing all of Trisha's art displayed today, because I don't know if we said that earlier, but she had all of the original artwork that she had displayed at the convention, as did Ruth for a lot of her things. So just seeing that got me back into the mood for the files. So it's perfect timing.
And first up, we are going to be covering number 3, Murder on Ice. I'm about halfway through it so far already. Nice. And I just have to say, I'm enjoying it.
Oh, good.
I think... Yeah, Ned is in it.
Okay.
And Bess and George.
Yay! Okay.
So we get the whole Drew crew.
Good.
Pretty much. I mean, and not so much Carson. But all our usual chums are about. So it's been really interesting so far. And in the usual Files fashion, there is a heap of romantic drama.
Yes.
So
excellent.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It'll be a great time. So that is coming up next, and we'll see you then, regular Drews.
Yep, see you then.
Thank you for listening to Regular Nancy Drew. Email us at regularnancydrew@gmail.com.
If you like this episode, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe.
You can also follow us on Instagram at Regular Nancy Drew and Twitter at RegularND.
You can also support us on Patreon. Patrons at the $3 level vote on upcoming episode topics and get exclusive access to our Scoop Sesh series.
And all patrons receive early access to each episode as well as weekly bonus content.
And to all you regular Drews out there,
thanks for listening.